Various world leaders are publicly rejecting Donald Trump's attempt to make them join yet another coalition to open up the Strait of Hormuz. If this sounds like deja vu, well, this is actually a new pitch that Donald Trump is making.
So MeidasTouch just exposed how Trump's Iran war has created a massive diplomatic crisis that's reshaping global alliances. We're seeing 80 years of American leadership crumble in real time as allies literally choose Canada over the U.S. This is historic. Let's break down how Trump destroyed America's credibility.
He said that he's creating a new group that is being called the Maritime Freedom Construct. And he is begging American allies, or I should say former American allies, can you please join the Maritime Freedom Construct to help us open up the Strait of Hormuz? And all these other countries are saying, did you just rename the thing that we already told you that we are not joining? Because this is not Europe's war. This is not Asia's war. This is your disastrous, catastrophic war, Donald, with Netanyahu. And no, we're not joining this.
This rebranding attempt is telling. Trump never got congressional approval for this war, so he's desperately trying cosmetic fixes. Notice how world leaders specifically call it Trump's war with Netanyahu, not America's war. They're making clear they see this as personal recklessness, not national policy.
And in fact, furious world leaders are now turning to Canada and saying, we're going to make Canada officially the leader of the free world and make you the center of a new defense lending organization. So while Donald Trump is saying, can you all join the Maritime Freedom Construct? Furious world leaders that are associated with NATO are saying, no, but we're going to make Canada the head of a new entity that's going to reliably lend money because, Donald, we don't trust you, but we trust Prime Minister Carney, the heroic former central banker who's now leading the free world. So get a load of this headline.
This is unprecedented. For 80 years, America has been the unquestioned leader of the free world. Mark Carney isn't just any politician. He's the former Bank of Canada governor and Bank of England governor. When central bankers are running foreign policy, you know trust in political leadership has collapsed.
U.S. seeks new coalition to get ships moving again in Hormuz, the Wall Street Journal reports. And so now the United States is asking other countries to join a new international coalition that would enable ships to navigate the Strait of Hormuz after traffic through the waterway stalled. Stalled would be an understatement. Okay, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that Donald Trump is pitching the Maritime Freedom Construct to share information, coordinate diplomatically, and help enforce sanctions. Can you help me?
The numbers tell the story. 38 ships are completely blocked. Oil prices surged 15% this month alone. Trump's blockade to stop a blockade strategy has backfired spectacularly. Iran's choke point control is now tighter than before he started bombing, proving his military advisors were right to oppose this.
Donald Trump is begging, or at least the State Department is, while Donald Trump is at the same time making social media posts like this. The United States is studying and reviewing the possible reduction of troops in Germany, with a determination to be made over the next short period of time. Thank you for your attention to this matter, Donald J. Trump. So while you're begging countries like Germany and others in the European Union, Japan, and elsewhere to join your new group, Donald, you are saying that you want to screw over the German alliance, which actually helps the United States. So now Donald Trump ordered the Defense Department and State Department that's begging Germany for help to study and review a possible reduction of troops in Germany. That's what Donald Trump is now focused on.
This contradiction is exactly why allies don't trust American leadership anymore. You can't simultaneously beg Germany for military help while publicly threatening to abandon them. It's the same pattern we've seen. Trump burns bridges while expecting people to help him rebuild them.
And as Congressman from Nebraska, Don Bacon, who was served in the military at a top leadership position, he goes, he's a Republican. He goes, the continued attacks on NATO allies are counterproductive. The comments hurt Americans. I commanded the huge Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany. The two big airfields in Germany give us, the United States, great access in 3 continents. We're shooting ourselves in our own foot.
Don Bacon isn't some liberal critic. He's a Republican Air Force Brigadier General who commanded Ramstein. That base is America's hub for operations across Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. When your own party's military experts say you're shooting yourself in the foot, that's devastating.
But Don, which you should realize, Don Bacon, that is, Donald Trump, he thought it was a brilliant idea in Atlantic City to open up 3 casinos saddled with massive debt right next to each other. And most people in the casino business were saying, but Donald, your 3 casinos are going to cannibalize it. You're going to go bankrupt. And Donald Trump's like, no, it's going to be so much gold and we're going to get Michael Jackson and we're going to make it so big. The Taj Mahal, the this, the that. You've never seen anything so big. Bankrupt, bankrupt, bankrupt. And it's exactly what Donald Trump is doing to the United States. And it's exactly what Donald Trump's doing with this naval blockade in the Persian Gulf. Because Trump's plan is, how am I going to open up the Strait of Hormuz? Okay, well, it's closed, so I'm going to close it even more with another blockade of an existing blockade. Brilliant decision there, Don.
The Atlantic City pattern is perfect here. Trump ignores all expert advice, goes for the flashy approach, then doubles down when it fails. His casinos cannibalized each other exactly like his foreign policy is cannibalizing American alliances. Same playbook, same catastrophic results.
And so now furious world leaders are saying, Canada, we need your help. So Canada has been selected to host the new multinational defense bank. Sources are saying, it's a big announcement, folks, by the way. And here's what we'll know about it. Canada has been selected as a host nation of this new multinational defense bank. Negotiations recently concluded. Once established, the bank could include as many as 40 countries, all NATO members and their allies, and it will provide long-term, low-cost financing for defense projects undertaken by participating countries. You know why they're trusting Canada? Because they don't trust the United States to run this anymore.
40 countries choosing Canada over America for defense financing? That's not temporary diplomatic frustration. That's a permanent realignment. This bank will outlast Trump's presidency and create lasting alternatives to American financial power. The damage is structural, not political.
Clearly, in a pre-Trump world, if this entity were to exist, Donald Trump screwed this all up, but the United States would be taking the lead. But right now, Canada is, and as Premier Doug Ford of Ontario says, the Defense Security and Resilience Bank is an opportunity to put Canada at the center of global finance and manufacturing. As our nation's financial capital, with a skilled workforce and unparalleled global connectivity, there's no better place for the bank to be headquartered than in Toronto. And you know how we've reported how over 60% of Canadians think that it would be a good idea for Canada to join the European Union. Although I've heard people, as you dig into it a little bit more, I'm not sure Canadians know the full integration with the Brussels bureaucracy and what that could potentially entail and look like for other things that Canadians hold dear. But
Canada is positioning itself as the stable, reliable alternative while America destroys relationships. That EU polling showing 60% of Canadians interested in EU membership reflects this broader shift. Democracies are building new partnerships that deliberately exclude the unpredictable U.S.
And so in a major European Union meeting that's coming up, Canada. It's the first time a non-European Union member has been invited, and Canada will be basically participating in some critical European Union meetings without actually officially joining the EU. That's a big deal, right? America first means America all alone. And you're seeing right here Donald Trump flailing and begging for help. And other countries are saying, no, Donald, we're not helping you. You're not going to rebrand this and trick us.
Exactly right. America first has become America alone. The world isn't waiting for Trump to get his act together. They're actively building parallel institutions and partnerships. When Canada gets unprecedented access to EU meetings, that's the new world order forming without us.
As Jamie Dupree explains, Trump's club in Virginia is touting the Live Golf tournament next week, as the Wall Street Journal is reporting that the Saudi PIF, their private investment fund, is cutting off funding for the alternative golf tour. Yes, Donald, you managed to kill Live, and now you're bragging that the Live Golf tournament will be playing at your Virginia club when Live right now is about to go bankrupt. Breaking via Wall Street Journal, Saudi Arabia is pulling its funding from Live Golf. Live plans to tell players and staff by today that Saudi Arabia's public investment fund would end its funding for the upstart league. But the PGA Tour isn't ready to welcome back those who jumped ship and left for Live. Someone laugh at Phil Mickelson who blocks me. That's what Yashar Ali says. We'll give you a nice laugh. Jake Sherman writes, the clown show has ended.
Live Golf's collapse perfectly illustrates how Trump's war has broader economic consequences. Saudi Arabia is cutting U.S. investments across the board, not just golf, but private equity, real estate, tourism. His reckless foreign policy is costing American businesses billions in lost Saudi capital.
One of the main reasons it did is because Donald Trump's disastrous and catastrophic war in Iran has caused a lot of economic pain in the Middle East. And one of the ways Saudi Arabia is retaliating against the Trump regime, both because it's retaliating, as well as now it's economically struggling, is it is no longer making these massive investments in U.S. things, U.S. tourism, big private equity funds, things like that. Saudi Arabia says, unless it's essential, we're not giving money to, all of these things that were getting Saudi money in the United States, like Live. And so Trump destroyed that. And
this goes way beyond golf. Saudi Arabia pulled $50 billion from U.S. markets this quarter alone. They're specifically targeting Trump-connected businesses as retaliation. It's not anti-American sentiment, it's anti-Trump sentiment. But American workers and investors pay the price for his personal failures.
I also find it fascinating, too, that Donald Trump has alienated even the far right-wing parties in European countries. I mean, you take a look, for example, at the National Rally, which is the far right-wing party associated with the Le Pen family in France. So the National Rally Party, very far right-wing party in France. They're led by a guy named Jordan Bardella. And they used to be like a natural ally of MAGA, right? Because they're MAGA France, basically. And here's what he said yesterday. Donald Trump's policy is now completely erratic, and no one is able to predict what he wants. By definition, when you change position very regularly, when you are not consistent, you no longer provide certainty, especially as the leader of an allied country. And obviously, this situation harms the reliability and credibility of the United States on the international stage.
When France's National Rally, basically French MAGA, turns against you, that shows complete international isolation. These are Trump's natural ideological allies, calling his policy erratic and unreliable. If you've lost the European far right, you've lost everybody.
This is not our war, Bardella says, but we are heavily suffering the consequences. I have always been extremely cautious about this recurring temptation from Trump to want to orchestrate external interventions. He goes on to say, the Americans have probably underestimated their adversary, as they did previously in Afghanistan and in Iraq. We can clearly see that the desire to destabilize a regime cannot be achieved with just a few air operations. Why? Because the Iranian regime appears to be more solid than expected. It is likely more resilient than anticipated. It is now more radicalized than it was just a few weeks ago. And again, that's the far right wing kind of MAGA party there that ain't MAGA anymore, that ain't supporting Donald Trump.
Bardella's Afghanistan and Iraq comparison is devastating because it's accurate. Trump's airstrikes have actually strengthened Iran's regime by giving them a nationalist rallying point. Just like Bush in Iraq, he's created the very problem he claimed to solve. Even right-wing populists see the strategic failure.
And what Axios is reporting is that Trump has said that he speaks with Netanyahu every single day of the week to basically coordinate everything. And it's just odd. I mean, why is why? It's odd. It's dangerous. Like, what are we doing as a country? America first means Netanyahu and Israel first?
Daily coordination calls with Netanyahu while ignoring Congress and allies explains everything. American foreign policy is being run from Tel Aviv, not Washington. No wonder allies are turning to Canada. They want partners who prioritize their own national interests, not foreign leaders' agendas.